Okay, hello, grade 12, class 1, and welcome to Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. So I will be discussing the lesson 1 of module 1 because you were given to me very late na, and we are already in lesson 4. And this lesson 1, I have discussed it with my class uh, during our meeting, so I decided to record it. Lesson 2 and lesson 3 are already recorded and I have uploaded it and sent the link in the GC. You can browse our official GC. So as you may have know, I only have one GC for my subject that includes all the sections that I handled kasi it is easier for me to post announcements, updates, or any other thing in one GC. Okay, so computing your grade, but this is for my virtual class. So we will be combining these two here, the short quizzes and recitation and post-test summative test into 60%, and then the quarterly exam will be 40% of your grade. So our first lesson in understanding culture, society, and politics is anthropology and the study of culture. So we will try to define anthropology, its goals, and perspectives. As you may have known, we now live in an era where changes happens in a blink of an eye. So we must be equipped with an understanding of the changes that takes place on the things around us, like in our culture, norms, or laws. We need to know what causes these changes so that we can be aware on how to fit in and the roles that we play as member of the society. Diba, 2 years ago, we still have this, we still don't have this new normal. We are actually living our old normal lives, like face-to-face classes. We can go wherever we want to go. We can hang out with our friends outside. We can go to picnics, beaches. But then, suddenly, biglang nagkaroon ng pandemic, nagkaroon ng lockdown, bawal lumabas, and then we were happy about that because sa wakas, makakapagpahinga tayo, and then a month passed, and then we suddenly felt the effect of uh, being in that situation. So changes are inevitable, and nothing is permanent in this world. It is changing. The society is changing. Our culture is changing. We are now in the new normal situation. And because of this, we need to adapt. We need to adapt. For us to be able to adapt, we need to understand how. Diba? There are some instances where if we can grasp the changes that are happening around us, there's some tendency that it can affect our mental health. So it is very important that that we understand how the society works, how the culture evolves, and how human behave. So our objective for the whole module actually is to discuss the nature, goals, and perspectives of anthropology, sociology, and political science. That is why in our GC I told you that we have 3 lessons in module 1, which is about anthropology, sociology, and political science. So in this lesson, we will be focusing on anthropology. So before we dig deeper, we need to define some terms that we will encounter later in this lesson, or if you will read the module, you will encounter these words. So our first term here is anthropology. So when we say anthropology, this is the study of humanity, the study of us, the study of me, you, and every human being around us. It can be the physical or biological aspect and our role in the society. In other words, cultural anthropology is the study of human beings. Our next word here is culture. When we say culture, it is a complex whole which encompasses beliefs, practices, values, artifacts, laws, symbols, and everything that a person learns and shares in a society. Everything, every behavior, every every tangible items or intangible characteristics that we share in a society is included in culture. Although we can be in one society, we can have different cultures. Okay, our next word is deculturation. When we say deculturation, this is the loss of cultural beliefs and practices tied with the changing times. Like say for example, I asked my student about if they can give me an example of one example of our culture being a Filipino. Ano ba yung pag sinabi natin, ano ba yung alam, very popular na kapag sa Pilipino kayo practice this. Sabi nila, yung pagmamano daw sa mga nakakatanda sa atin, that is very good, that is very Filipino. 'Di ba? Nagmamano tayo sa ating nanay, sa ating tatay, sa mga nakakatanda sa atin. And that is one of the culture of the Filipino. But then, actually, medyo yung iba hindi na siya pina-practice because of the changing times, kakaunti na lang or naaalis na siya sa ating kultura. And that process can be considered papunta na siya sa deculturation, 'pag tuluyan na siyang nawala, 'pag tuluyan ng nawala yung paniniwala natin on that aspect, yan, that is deculturation. Next word, our last term in this lesson is cultural diffusion. This is a process of accommodating desirable traits from other cultures through acculturation, assimilation, enculturation, colonization, and revolutionary movement. Pag sinabi natin cultural diffusion, this is the spreading out and merging of pieces from different cultures, One example of this is um, the use of gadgets, cell phone. What else? Yung mga beso-beso na ginagawa natin. When before, pag pinapakilala tayo sa mga sa iba, or 'di ba, uso sa atin yung magmano, pero ngayon mahilig na tayo sa beso-beso. Like yung mga kids ko, they do this when they see us, gano'n na, iyayakap or magki-kiss. So, that is actually cultural diffusion, the spreading out and merging of pieces from different cultures. Okay, so I hope these four words are clear, or in terms are clear. So if you have any question that uh, parang pag meron pang malabo, you can always uh, send me a private message and I will try to explain it as clearly as possible. Okay, so uh, in your module, we have this pre-test, and if you want to do this pre-test, you can do it. The answer key is at the back of at the last page of the module. If you got zero or you weren't able to perfect it, it's okay because this is just a pre-test. It will give us an overview of what we will be learning throughout the lesson. So let's now formally define anthropology. Accordingly, anthropology is derived from the two Greek words which are anthropos, meaning uh, man, and logos, that means study. So every individual differs in various ways. So putting your lens closer to these differences reveal how individuals are alike in terms of their physical features, routines, our interactions with each other, the differences and similarities by which individuals live, act, and interact is a manifestation of the numerous aspects of human existence. One of these aspects is man's unique social behavior tied to their cultural background. Culture is the invisible bond which ties people coming from the same society together. It affects our judgment, our skills, our perceptions, yung attitude natin, kung paano tayo gumalaw, kung paano tayo kumilos, paano tayo makitungo, paano tayo humarap sa mga tao. Our culture actually affects these things. It has a direct impact on our behavior. So culture, we have shaped our values and belief systems, which influences our personalities. It somehow gives us our identity and sense of belongingness to our community. It is for this reason that understanding culture is very important, and this is the focus of one field in social sciences called cultural anthropology. Talking about cultural anthropology, that is actually one of the subdisciplines of anthropology. When we say physical or biological anthropology, this is the study of human biological variation in time and space that includes yung genetics, growth, development, and primatology. Like, for example, biologists often look at the biology of human remains, mga fossils, past diets, and prevalence of ancient, ancient disease. Yung mga bones, other remains that provides us with clues regarding the lives of our mga ninuno. Yan, on how they live, diba? And on how they form their society. So this is that is physical or biological anthropology. When we say naman cultural anthropology, this is the study of human society and culture, which describes, analyzes, and interprets social and cultural similarities and differences. So, yung cultural anthropology has two subcategories, di ba? Ito yung subdiscipline, one of the subdisciplines of anthropology. One of its subcategories is natin, uh, archaeological anthropology and linguistic anthropology. When we say archaeological anthropology, it is the study of human behavior and cultural patterns and processes through culture's material remains. Ayan, like, unang nabanggit natin kanina, like, fossils, bones, mga remains. The next subcategories is the linguistic anthropology. It is the descriptive, comparative, and historical study of language and of linguistic similarities and differences in time, space, and society. Yung pagkakaiba-iba natin ng mga languages. Di ba? We have so many languages. Dito nga pa lang sa Irisin, meron na tayong yung mga nakatira sa Santo Domingo, they speak differently from us. So that is under cultural anthropology, linguistic anthropology. Our last subdiscipline is the use of anthropological knowledge in solving contemporary problems through the application of theories and approaches of the discipline. Sinasabi nga nila na yung applied anthropology daw is anthropology in use. Okay? Pag sinabi nating applied anthropology, these are researches that is done to solve practical problems. Dapat yung purpose niya, yung objectives ng study is not just to describe, but solve some practical problems. Meaning, there are stakeholders and clients who stand to gain or lose from the project, if it will succeed or based on the result of the study. Practical use, solve practical problems. So here are the importance of anthropology. The subdisciplines, yung mga subdisciplines, we have the applied anthropology, cultural anthropology, biological or physical anthropology. So these subdisciplines of anthropology show us that it takes a broad approach to holistically understand the various aspects of human experience. To understand and study humanity, anthropologists compare one society to the other. So uh, they are they are studying one society, and they try to describe, they try to analyze the difference between these societies, how this society deal with this kind of problem, and how this another society will this with this kind of problem. So it is noteworthy that it is important to study anthropology because of the following reasons. Number one, it broadens your knowledge and changes your perspective. Knowing how human behaves, knowing how the knowing our culture, knowing how we end up being like this. Okay, it will broaden our knowledge, and it will probably change our perspective on how we adapt on things, on the changes of things around us. Next is it is useful in understanding how society has evolved through time and the cultural changes that have taken place. Nalalaman natin kung ano ba yung ating mga nakaraan with this branch of social sciences. Ano ba before yung mga ninuno natin? Number three is it is relevant in tracing the transitions that societies went through leading up to its current state. It will help us understand our society's status nowadays if we know what it was before. It helps us to deal with complexity. So our culture actually, some of our cultures are very complex now because of we've defined earlier the cultural diffusion that happens through colonization. Sabi daw, di ba sa history, uh, we are not actually Christians, but then the Spaniards came over and introduced Christianity. So it will help us deal with the complexities on the things around us. And last, number five, it is actually very interesting. This is not my one of my mastery, but I find this topic really interesting. In studying humans, anthropologists also consider not just the present time but also the past through archaeology in order to see how humans lived 1,000 years ago. They examine what makes up our biology as well as our bones, genes, and health. Yung curiosity in exploring the uniqueness of man from other species led them to compare humans to other animals like chimpanzees and other primates to see what we have in common with these animals and what makes us unique from them. So talking about commonality, every person in the same society is bounded by culture. Let's dig in more about that. Let's talk about culture. You've been hearing culture earlier in this lesson. You probably read it in the module. So when we say culture, according to Sir Edward Taylor, he is the first to give a formal definition of culture. According to him, culture as the core concept of cultural anthropology is the complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, laws, morals, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by a man as a member of a society. So parang dito nabigyan ng emphasis ang word na complex whole. When you say it is complex whole because it includes several components like this. So lahat ng yan, mga na-acquired natin as a member of a society. So that makes it very complex. So since culture is a design or a roadmap, sabi, uh, since it comprises our behavior, kanina arts, laws, so it serves as a roadmap that guides the behavior of members in the society. So merong mga characteristics ang culture. In order for, like for example, we can say that this behavior is part of their culture, is culture when it has the following characteristics. Number one, culture is everything. It is what a person has, it is what the person does, it is what the person thinks, being part of that certain society. So it covers all of a person's belief system, except of behaviors and material possessions. Lahat. So it can be divided into two, the material culture and the non-material culture. Pag sinabi nating material culture, these are the tangible uh, and visible parts of culture like clothes, food, even buildings. Okay? Objects are important in the study of human history because they provide a concrete basis for the prevailing ideas of the times and can be used to validate the existing realities. No? Mga tangible. Pag sinabi natin tangible, mga nahahawakan, nakikita. Next is the non-material culture naman. These are the intangible. Ayan. Baliktaran siya ng material culture. Okay, pag sinabi nating non-material culture, this are includes all intangible parts of culture like values. Okay, ano ba yung mga values like honesty, yan, norms, laws, sanctions, and knowledge among others. Okay, I hope this is clear. Culture is everything. Okay, next characteristic is culture is shared. Yan. Sabi natin kanina, the people living in a society is bounded by, invisibly bounded by culture. This implies that particular behavior cannot be considered as part of the culture if it is uh, only being practiced by one person. Okay? Kung isa lang yung nagpa-practice ng ganyang behavior, it cannot be considered as part of their culture. So culture is shared is intra and intergenerational. Our first characteristic is culture is everything. Culture is shared, and our third characteristic is culture is learned. Learned. Okay, culture is a set of beliefs, attitudes, and practices that an individual learns through his or her family, school, church, and other social institutions. Dito pumapasok yung tinatawag nating diffusion. Pag sinabi nating diffusion, sorry about that, gamit ko lang kasi mouse while writing this. When I say diffusion, this is the spread of culture from one society to another. One example of this are the values that we learn in our family. Like in my family, like for example, hindi ka pwedeng sumagot sa mga nakakatanda ng walang po at opo. That is part of the culture. Another is learned. These are the values that we learn from school. Like ano ba yung mga tinuturo sa school? Ang paggamit ng computer. That is one example of being cultured. A culture is learned. Another thing, um, What else? Our religious practices. Okay, these are the one culture that we learn from the church, di ba? For the Catholic people, how to yung sign of the cross, that is part of their culture. Okay? So, next is culture affects biology. Humans are born into culture that have values of beauty and body. As such, they alter their bodies to fit physiological norms that are dictated by their culture. 'Di ba? We have this kind of standard of beauty. Sabi natin, we can consider one person, uh, a woman to be beautiful if she is tall, she has a pointed nose, she has a long, shiny hair. So, so because of that thinking, because of that standard of beauty, our culture becomes disaffected that some of us try to alter our God-given beauty. Like for example, magpapa-plastic surgery tayo, gumagamit tayo ng mga pampaputi. Ah, ano pa ba? Yun, mga ganon. So, it affects biology. Next characteristic is culture is adaptive. Culture is a tool for survival that humans use in response to the pressures of their environment. It includes customs and traditions, sports and games, food and meals, dates. Before, para makapanligaw ang mga lalaki, they need to go to the ladies, to a woman's house, maghaharana, ayan, hihingi yung kamay, magpapaalam sa parents. But now, isang text na lang, isang isang chat na lang, 'di ba? That is because we adapt to these kinds of culture. The traditions and celebrations. Dati we do not celebrate ngayon this Valentine's Day, but because we adapt to this kind of culture, we now celebrate. Okay, how many characteristics do we have now? We have culture is everything, culture is shared, culture is learned, culture change affects biology, culture is adaptive, and our sixth characteristic is culture. Kung adaptive siya, maladaptive din siya. This is when manifesting a set of cultural practices and we fail to adapt to the environmental changes. 'Di ba? It can lead to maladaptation. Pag hindi natin like for example, uh, you are a Filipino and you go to another country and they speak differently than yours, they behave differently than yours. So if you fail to adapt to the changes that is happening to your surroundings, it can lead to maladaptation. Diyan sometimes pumapasok yung term na culture shock. So, if culture is adaptive, it is also maladaptive if we fail to adapt to the environmental changes. Okay, our last characteristic is culture is never static. This dynamism of culture is due to the changing needs of man as they interpret and survive in their environment. Sabi nga natin kanina, changes are inevitable. Ganun din sa culture. It is never static. Palagi nating naririnig sa mga nakakatanda sa atin, sa ating mga father and mother. Like kami ganito lang kami ngayon, kayo ganyan na ngayon. Dati kami masaya na kami sa tumbang preso sa mga POG na nilalaro namin. Pero ngayon, ang mga kabataan, kailangan mo silang bilhan ng phones. Diba? Masaya na tayong maglaro ng mga tagu-taguan. Ngayon, iba na ang nilalaro. Because culture changes. culture is never static. Okay, so here are the goals in studying anthropology. Number one is to explore and study the various cultures of man, realize that anthropology as a discipline has a strong commitment to issues of social justice, that which we will be discussing in the coming lessons, understand the process of anthropological interpretation and representation. So, anthropology has different distinctive ways of thinking about the world, human culture, societies, and people. Merong yung mga anthropologists, meron silang mga paraan on how they think about the world, the human cultures, the societies, and its people. Anthropological perspectives focuses on the study of full scope of human diversity and the application of that knowledge to help people of different backgrounds. Kaya iba because people has different backgrounds, society has different norms and values. So people in that uh, society being part of that group also has uh, a has this different backgrounds or different behavior. So anthropologists need this different perspectives to be able to deal with this um with these differences. So our first perspective here is the cross cultural or comparative empathy. In other words, studying other cultures with different understandings of the world. So cross-cultural or comparative from the word compare. We study two different cultures and we compare. Okay? Uh, the styles of life. So unlike sociologists and psychologists, economists, and political scientists, anthropologists look beyond the confines of our own society. Diba, psychologists, they focus on you alone. They will not compare you to others. But anthropologists, when they're looking into cultures, they use this kind of perspective, the comparative or cross-cultural empathy. So, for example, a sociologist may attempt to explain social organization with reference only to their own society. So, how the society is being organized. An anthropologist would almost invariably go on to compare and contrast our own patterns or organizations, our own patterns with the others, with the other society. Okay? Dito pumapasok yung term na defamiliarization. Pag sinabi nating defamiliarization, it refers to the process through which you develop an ability to look at our own culture. Kasi nga, di ba, you compare your culture with the other culture, and then when you look at your culture, it's where it is as if your culture is not good enough. Like, mas cool na itong culture na to and mas i-adapt natin to. Kaya nangyayari ang defamiliarization. Our next perspective is an evolutionary or historical approach. In other words, it is focused upon the understanding of and the description of patterns. Yung patterns, yung history. Okay? Yung history ng ah ng 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 society, yung historical background. Importante daw na sabi na malaman natin yung nakaraan para maintindihan natin yung kasalukuyan. So, pag yan ang approach ang ginamit, it focuses on history. Next is ecological emphasis and holistic empathy. Pag sinabi nating ecological approach, it views human societies or culture within the context of larger natural system. And then holistic approach naman, it is very closely related to ecological approach. Silang dalawa, they are closely related because they both uh, look into things uh, holistically. Yan, from general, they always look at the big picture. No, they try they try to incorporate ecological insights into its studies of human behavior ito. Pero they look at the bigger things, the bigger picture. So as a philosophical principle, pag sinabi nating holism, it is simply refers to the assumption that no complex entity can be considered to be more than the sum of its parts. Sabi sa holism anthropology daw, there's this assumption that any given aspect of human life is to be studied. Lahat kailangang pag-aralan. With an eye to the way it is related to one aspect of human life. Holism is synonym for a relational emphasis and emphasis upon studying the relationship. So very important every part of that society, every values, every culture, yan. Anthropological perspective is very important because it looks at shared aspects of humanity like language, cultural connections, economics, and curiosity to find the common thread. Okay? So these are the perspectives in anthropology. Anthropological perspective is that unlike other social scientists, sabi natin kanina, anthropologists look beyond the confines of our own society and compare it to the beliefs and practices of other societies, past and present. So, I have here with me a practice task. So, if you want to do this, you can do this in your notebook and you can check if you got it right sa answer key sa likod. Okay, so what I need you to do is to and submit an illustration. You need to submit an illustration on the characteristics of culture. Just select one characteristics of culture and then gumawa kayo ng illustration or drawing. Okay, na nagpapakita no characteristic of culture. No need to explain. Just draw. Dapat sa drawing makikita ko na kung anong klaseng anong characteristic of culture ba yung ang inyong ginawa. So, yung maximum point for this is 9 points. Merong tatlong criteria. Para makakuha ng 3 sa creativity, dapat unique design, colors, blending, and organization of idea are present. Okay, para maka-3. Relevance to the subject, the chosen characteristic is correct and its manifestation in the drawing is evident na hindi nyo na kailangan i-explain kung anong characteristic yun. And the instruction has been followed. Timeliness. The output has been submitted on time. So in my case, you need to submit this, yung Monday group sa Monday, next Monday. Anong date ba next Monday? Yung natin Monday. Monday. Monday ba? Sinerch ko. So Monday, ang deadline nito, para makakuha kayo ng 3 points sa timeliness is on month On 28, yung mga Monday group, 29 yung Tuesday group, 30, kung ano kayo pupunta sa school next week. Yun yung deadline ninyo. So, the output has been submitted on time, 3 points. The output has been submitted late, but still within the day, 2 points and 1 point kung nag-submit ka kayo ng output pero very late na. So, if you have any question, clarification, magtanong lang kayo sa GC and I will try to answer it, all of it, as soon as possible. You may now move to our next lesson, lesson 2. Okay, hello, grade 12, class 1, and welcome to Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. So I will be discussing the lesson 1 of module 1 because you were given to me very late na, and we are already in lesson 4. And this lesson 1, I have discussed it with my class uh, during our meeting, so I decided to record it. Lesson 2 and lesson 3 are already recorded and I have uploaded it and sent the link in the GC. You can browse our official GC. So as you may have known, I only have one GC for my subject that includes all the sections that I handled kasi it is easier for me to post announcements, updates, or any other thing in one GC. Okay, so